Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center on this Thursday night, tracking our Tropical Storm Isaias. Here, as we continue to look at it, we see the latest track here from the National Hurricane Center. Hasn't changed too much. Still expected to be a Category 1 hurricane off the coast of Florida here as we get in toward the weekend. So we're still watching this carefully, and we're just going to watch for any sips here in the track. You see the area here on the infrared satellite imagery is still showing quite a bit of thunderstorm activity, but maybe not quite as organized as it was earlier, just in general, because it has been in that area there around Hispaniola. But we're just going to have to watch to see how things are here as we're looking ahead in toward Friday and toward Saturday, because as we get there in toward the rest of the period here, we're going to have to see if it goes more west, and that would probably be because it's weaker. But if it goes further here off toward the east, maybe a stronger type storm. So we're watching this carefully. You see some of the wind fields plotted out here on the screen, so I'll go ahead and zoom in to Florida here so we get a better look at things here closer toward the Sunshine State. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about here where we get towards some of the stronger winds, and you see most of those staying off the first coast right now, which is a really good news, but still could be under a tropical storm watch here, tropical storm warning at some point here in northeastern Florida, some of those coastal communities, and we still have to watch for sips here in the expected track of the system. I'll go ahead and switch on over here to our other mode where we'll be able to show you some of our information in terms of some of the forecast models. Now, just take these with a grain of salt, but we're going to go ahead and put these on here, and you see some of them kind of painting a picture here pretty close to the official track, but the latest run here of the H-Warp model showing a track closer here toward the Sunshine State, toward Florida. So we'll have to continue to watch to see how things evolve here in the Weather Center. Again, just trying to give you some different perspectives here on the overall threat, and we're going to continue to watch this here as we look ahead into Friday and Saturday, because we're pretty close here in the time frame. I know as we get here early Sunday morning, we're seeing it there off of Cape Canaveral, and early there as we get in toward that Monday, you see it skirting off the South Georgia coast there and toward the South Carolina coast. Even the marker they have on here is for 8 o'clock here Sunday night as a Cat 1 hurricane, and to measure that here we're talking about 93 miles or so, give or take, off of St. Augustine, about 100 miles here as we're looking toward the first coast. So if that shifts there at the track 50 miles west, our impacts would increase. 50 miles east, they would decrease. To kind of get the idea, we're continuing to track this. Again, not any major changes really. One thing that is of note, though, I'll go ahead and take you over to the graphic system right now. I'll be able to say what that displays. We'll be able to give you that perspective here with the cone of concern. You also see there is a hurricane warning now for parts of the Bahamas that went up earlier this evening as they're growing more concern there. The hurricane warning that is in effect here, I have it in my notes. It is for the northwestern Bahamas, and some of the locations that it does include are Andros Island, also New Providence, getting over toward Abacos Islands, Berry Islands, Grand Bahama Island there too. So really watching this as we're looking ahead in toward the period, and you see in the yellow here a tropical storm warning in play from Ocean Reef to Sebastian Inlet, but also now Lake Okeechobee here on the map. That's a change from what we were displaying here earlier. So I just want to be cognizant of that. The maximum sustained wind still at 60 miles per hour. The movement here northwest about 18, and that pressure at 999 millibars. There were some indications of maybe lower pressures, but right now the Hurricane Center is sticking with 999 millibars. Again, we still have to watch. We're still in the cone of concern for a possible hurricane here on the first coast on Sunday, so you can't lay your guard down yet. I mentioned this earlier. I'd be more concerned here looking toward areas from the St. Johns River east, from the St. Johns River west right now. Just watch, but I wouldn't be overly concerned, of course. So you always want to, this time of year, have your hurricane plan up to date. But if you're from the St. Johns River east, there's a better chance there may be some type of advisory or warning going in play. And you also want to be cognizant of rip currents. It's not really a good beach weekend because of some of the dangerous conditions that we're expecting there. You just got to be really careful if you do go to the beach. You really need to be safe, because that's how these type of storms sometimes, when they're off the coast like this, that's how people unfortunately lose their life here in our area because of rip currents dangerous conditions there at the beaches. Maybe some storm surge. We'll see. We'll just have to watch on that. It may not be really too close enough for that, but we'll continue to watch here. Continue to watch the progression here over Tropical Storm Isaias, and we'll continue to give you those latest updates here as necessary as we move along. Now, the European model I showed you here earlier. This shows a picture here, more of early Monday being off the coast, so there is still some disagreement in time. We'll get another update on this here in about 3 hours. That'll be very important, I think, just as the models get a better handle on this situation, because as we get here closer into toward the time of this skirting by the coast here, or getting even really close to the coast possibly, we do probably get some better agreement. That's what we're looking for. We'll probably get some better agreement. And that is critical here, so we can kind of tell you what to expect. But right now, I'm not expecting major impacts here, and I'm kind of trying to be on the conservative side here with my forecast, and we'll just kind of have to continue to watch, because this is a tricky situation. It's a pretty tricky situation because as we're moving along here, things can change. If we did get a shift, these numbers would go up. But right now, we're going with about a 45-mile-per-hour peak wind gust there toward Palm Coast, 40 miles per hour at Jacksonville, 35 Brunswick, 30 Gainesville, and even less as we get further there into toward south central Georgia and then in the Florida Big Bend as you're getting pretty far away. The time frame right now looks like late Saturday into Monday, but we'll continue to watch for adjustments here in the weather center. Now, in terms of that rainfall forecast, it doesn't look like too much to write home about, and we'll just have to wait, though, and see if things change, because if it were to be weaker, there's been models that show it giving us quite a bit more rain than this, but right now we're going with the stronger runs of things, and we're going to continue to watch and wait. I'm a little more concerned than normal here because we don't have a good grip on this yet, because we need to find out exactly where that center is and find out how the thunderstorms are going to be. Normally, with storms like Dorian and Matthew, we've had a better idea by now what things might look like, because we've been watching them so long and the models have been kind of refining things, and we've been refining things. But with this, it's kind of iffy right now, though. It looks like not too big of an impact, but again, from the St. Johns River east here in northeast Florida, I'd just be paying attention more closely and just going ahead and making sure you're starting to get some of those things taken care of here, some preliminary things, as I was alluding to earlier. Again, on here, we're showing you those rainfall totals, maybe an inch or two around Palm Coast. Some of the models giving them a little bit more, but as we get up the coast here, we're talking about areas, Jacksonville, Brunswick, maybe a half inch to an inch. Some spots could get a little bit more. Other spots maybe a little less. And then Gainesville, and a half inch, and then even less as we get out toward the Tallahassee area. So that's kind of the breakdown there. Again, we are tracking our storm here, Isaias, on the list. And our next name after that will be Josephine. We're just flying through these names. We've never gone this fast here in the Atlantic Basin through these names. So we really just have to be cognizant, because hurricane season is still pretty early on, and things can change here in a hurry, as we could be watching another system here as we look into toward August, maybe evolving, just other systems in general, not a specific threat, but we probably will be watching Josephine here in the not too distant future, just based on the overall environment there in the tropics. But we don't know much on that right now. We're still trying to narrow down what Isaias is going to do. I do want to also touch on some of the impacts here as we look further up. I'm going to go ahead and switch this back over to our other system once I get a few things refined. Interesting to see that there's a severe thunderstorm warning up toward Philadelphia right now. And I could get some nasty conditions that way as we look ahead here from our tropical system. So you just want to stay tuned there. I have the model data, some of our tracks up. Some other models are showing maybe a stronger system. They have at the Hurricane Center Cat 1 right now here, moving toward the Outer Banks, and that seems about right. As we get up here, we'll have to watch up toward the northeast to see how things hold together, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. You just want to stay tuned if you have interest in those areas, and even in North Carolina, because this could change. But this is showing a landfall here as you look down right now. This is going to change, of course, but right now around Morehead City there in North Carolina, it's a Category 1 hurricane, so there could be some type of hurricane watch, hurricane warning there for that area. This is as we look toward late Monday, so maybe a hurricane watch there Saturday night going into play, something like that. We'll just have to watch for those folks, because that's something they'll have to start thinking about. They want to have their hurricane plan up to date as well, but things can change, so just be ready there in toward that region, and maybe start thinking about things there too as we look closer here and things get more refined, because there does seem to be a better chance of impact as we get toward that region. But you have a little more time to watch it, and we'll just continue to give you the latest updates. It's a tough situation here, a tough forecast, and because the models just are having a tough time here trying to figure out exactly where that center is and where it's going to go, because it's a complex situation there as we get back down toward Hispaniola, trying to figure out exactly where that center is. And right now they actually have a peg north there, so maybe trying to get off, maybe trying to reestablish itself some. And that's something we'll have to continue to keep our eyes on here, keep tabs on as we move along here in the weather center. Just real quick, looking at some notes here from the National Hurricane Center. They're just talking about this storm nearing the southeastern Bahamas, a hurricane warning for the northwestern Bahamas. And I know out toward the Bahamas, they've been really hit here as we look back toward Dorian. So not something you want to see there, because they're more vulnerable to a storm like this. Kind of similar to Maria there and Puerto Rico, maybe a lesser extent because they've had a little more time to recover, but you get the idea. We're really watching things here as we get down here closer toward the Caribbean. And they're just saying here in this Weather Service and Hurricane Center update, I should say, that they're just continuing to track things. They did have a report there at one of the observation stations to 54 miles an hour, and up to 6 inches of rain possible there in north southeast Florida, depending on the ultimate track. 2 to 4 is more likely, though. And again, we're going to watch our numbers here as they change, as they evolve. I'll be here to give you the latest updates. What we're planning right now, we're going to come on as necessary tomorrow. I'm kind of leaving it open-ended because the models, until we get a good look here at what's probably going to happen, I'm kind of hesitant to see how much or how little coverage we're going to have here tomorrow. We'll probably be on at some point tomorrow, though, here with an update. But again, it just kind of depends on how things go, as this storm is a little more lopsided to the east. We'll have to watch here as it gets past Hispaniola here overnight, and then tomorrow we should get a better idea of what's going to happen. And I'll be here to keep you updated as the situation does evolve. But right now, coastal impacts look like the bigger story. That surf going to be an issue here. And again, we're just going to watch. If it's a weaker system, I mean, theoretically, we could get a weaker system in a worst case type scenario here and get near the Florida coast and strengthen as it's right near the coast here. And you just have to watch. You just never know, because the tropics pretty here unpredictable, as we're continuing to give you that latest information here in the Weather Center. For now, meteorologist Casey Cloud, thanks so much for tuning in, and have a good night.